Welcome to Carlo Ancelotti's first press conference as Chelsea manager.
He won the Champions League with Milan in both 2003 and 2007. Ancelotti's keen to repeat that with Chelsea, who narrowly missed out on winning the competition in the last two seasons.
I'm here for this.
Doing the League and FA Cup double, never managed by Chelsea. Have got 7 again for the 4th time this year, breaking all sorts of scoring records and wrapping up the title with an 8-0 triumph. But after 4 years, the Premier League title returns to Chelsea.
For a fantastic season.
It is double delight for Carlo and co.
I am happy because the club, I think, is doing a fantastic job for this transfer market.
Carlo, would you agree that was a disappointing performance to end the season?
Was not a good performance. The season is finished. The club can judge my job and after that they will take a decision. We have to wait.
Chelsea manager Carlo Ancelotti has left the club. A statement on the Blues website thanked the Italian for his 2 years in charge, but said a change was necessary following performances that have fallen short of expectations.
In 2003, Roman Abramovich acquired Chelsea, and the rest, as they say, is history. Upon his arrival, he quickly changed the entire landscape of the club, largely on the basis of a huge cash injection. In 2004, he appointed Jose Mourinho, who won Chelsea back-to-back league titles in his first 2 seasons. The 2007-8 season started badly, and Mourinho left Chelsea in September 2007 on mutual consent, mainly due to disagreements with Abramovich. The club hired Avram Grant in 2007 and then Scolari in 2008. Both were sacked within 1 year. The club hired Gus Hiddink as interim manager, who left the club at the end of 2008-9 season. And the club were looking for a new manager in the summer of 2009. Carlo Ancelotti, who enjoyed a great career as a football player, joined coaching after retirement. He started as an assistant coach in 1992 for the Italy national team under his former coach Arrigo Sacchi, who is regarded as one of the most influential coaches in football history. Ancelotti left the Italy national team in 1995 to become head coach of Reggiana, and from there started his managerial career. He managed several Italian clubs, but his best spell came with AC Milan, where he won all the possible trophies in his 8-year managerial tenure, including 2 Champions League titles. Carlo Ancelotti was offered Chelsea job in 2008, but later they chose Scolari, which, according to Ancelotti, was mainly because of his poor English. Ancelotti was offered Chelsea job again in 2009 in what he called a very intense process, something he had never experienced before. But this time, Ancelotti was keen on the job, learned English too, and became Chelsea's head coach in 2009. Ancelotti joined Chelsea in 2009 on a 3-year contract, becoming the 3rd Italian to coach Chelsea and their 4th permanent manager in just 21 months. Ancelotti won his first trophy with Chelsea in August 2009, beating Manchester United in the Community Shield. The league season went well from the beginning, but they got an early exit from the League Cup in December after losing to Blackburn Rovers. They also lose to Inter Milan in the round of 16 of Champions League with an aggregate score of 3-1. Roman Abramovich showed a clear disappointment at this exit, especially from Jose's team. But this exit did not let the team fall down in the other competitions. More than tactics, Ancelotti's biggest strength throughout his career has been his relationship with players. The players were aware of Roman Abramovich's situation, but he had support from the entire dressing room who felt that they let him down. Ancelotti challenged them to focus on the remaining 2 competitions, highlighting that only 4 teams have won a double in 21st century and they can become first team to do so since Arsenal in 2002. This had a positive impact on the pitch. The players were playing for Ancelotti, dominating the game, and showed some of the best attacking display in the league. The ending was a success. They won both the Premier League and FA Cup, first double in Chelsea's history, and is considered as one of the best ever seasons of any team in the Premier League. He set the record for the most goals scored by a team in the league and made Chelsea one of the most enjoyable teams in England. Didier Drogba scored 29 goals, his highest in a single league season, and Frank Lampard became the playmaker of the season with 16 assists. A comfortable league title and FA Cup victory, along with his playing style and man management, made him one of the most liked and highly regarded managers in the league. Chelsea were not only winning the league, but were also playing very attractive football. But the next season did not go as well. Chelsea finished second and trophyless, losing to United in the title race with a gap of 9 points and knocked out in the quarter-final of the Champions League by United only. The season ended with a 1-0 defeat to Everton, the last match of the season and Carlo's last match as Chelsea coach. His post-match conference indicated that he was expecting a quick reaction from the top, and that happened. But faster than even he would have imagined, he was sacked just an hour after the match was finished. But how did this happen? He got two talented informed players in David Luiz and Fernando Torres in the January window, in addition to their existing squad. He did not lose the dressing room. It was still a second place finish, not outside of the top 4, and reaching the quarter-final of the Champions League. Overall, not an embarrassing season. If you ask me, the short answer is obviously it was a huge mistake and just impatience of the owner from results and his desire to win the Champions League. For him, 2 seasons were already enough, even if first season was such an amazing domestic success. But there appears to be several reasons that can be considered, still not justified, to find out why it happened. Well, actually, it started with the summer transfer window of 2010. The club decided to let go many senior players who were a key part of Ancelotti's title-winning squad, and they were replacing them with mostly young players. This was something Ancelotti was not totally comfortable with, but agreed as this was the way club wanted to go. Although he himself wanted to give more chances to young players and spending less in the transfer window, but not this way, without his inputs and basically zero control on his first team squad. Joe Cole, Michael Ballack, Giuliano Belletti, Ricardo Carvalho and Deco all left the club in 2010. Particularly Joe Cole, Michael Ballack and Giuliano Belletti, whose contracts expired in 2010 and were not renewed. They left the club on a free transfer. Considering their experience, their role in his first season on and off the pitch, it was a huge blow that was felt clearly throughout the season. Ancelotti highlighted the issue of not renewing Ballack's contract in his book as well. He really wanted him to stay, but the club decided not to continue with old players, and Ancelotti was asked to give a chance to young players. It was not a suggestion to a coach having full control, but an order from the board who had a final say in everything. And Ancelotti agreeing with that made the way for Josh McCarron, Gal Kakuta, Patrick Van Aanholt, Jeffrey Bruma, Fabio Borini, and also Daniel Sturridge in the first team. None of them were able to make it at Chelsea. Not a single one. Even Sturridge, who despite winning the Champions League, had a very underwhelming career at Chelsea. Chelsea did sign Ramirez in summer window and Luiz and Torres in winter, but the problem was letting go so many key players at once, bringing up many new faces including young players without a clear plan of how to use them, as many of them went on loan in next 2-3 transfer windows. And this unnecessary shake-up was clearly visible in the team performance, which later became the main reason of Ancelotti's sacking. Obviously, nothing wrong with giving chance to young players. If you have one of the best academies in the world, then there should be a pathway for those academy graduates and other young players scouted from around the world. Every club tries to do that, and we have seen many such top players with Chelsea too. Even if they end up somewhere else, there should be a pathway and a clear plan for them. But the issue was letting go so many senior players who had not just experience, but were integral to the club's success in the last few years, had strong presence in the dressing room, and could easily perform well for 2-3 seasons. Ballack, who Ancelotti wanted to be kept, still released by the club against his wishes. Cole, who missed a big part of the season due to injuries, was not retained because the club wanted to give more chance to young players. Ray Wilkins, a former Chelsea player and very loved and respected person among Chelsea fans, returned to Chelsea in 2008 again as an assistant coach. Ray was an assistant coach at Chelsea between 1998 and 2000 as well. He was appointed as assistant to Scolari, then he became assistant to Gus Hiddink and continued in his position under Ancelotti. Ancelotti himself admitted that Ray played a huge role in his successful league campaign and his influence on the dressing room was not hidden by anyone. But he was still sacked by the club in November 2010 as his contract was not renewed by the club. Ray Wilkins later in an interview with Sky Sports said he was not given any reason for his sacking. Carlo Ancelotti discussed this in his book, where he said that his sacking was not discussed with him before and highlighted how helpful he was in his first season, especially in communication with players due to his fluency in Italian. Although there were sufficient members in his coaching staff, but the issue was taking decision without Ancelotti's input. and that too in the middle of the season. And to make it worse, they replaced him with Michael Imenalo. Ancelotti told the board that he has sufficient people on his staff and does not need another assistant. But Michael Imenalo was still hired, who was a scout at Chelsea before. This made several players upset and was another example of how little control he had over the decision of coaches and players, something which mattered most for getting desired results and performances. Ray's departure was also a questionable decision, considering how their season went from there. The club was on top in November, but things did not go as well since then. The club brought two big-name signings to Stamford Bridge in the winter transfer window: David Luiz from Benfica and Fernando Torres from Liverpool. On paper, it was a big move and should have improved the team massively, but they did not have much impact in that season, as they were now left with just 3-4 months, especially Torres, who could not continue his Liverpool form at Chelsea. It has been widely reported that Ancelotti did not want Torres in the first place, and he was signed by the board because of his rise in Liverpool. Ancelotti had frozen players in the past who he did not want, like Zola at Parma or Henry at Juventus. But not playing him enough was like a direct war with the owner, who signed him on a record fee. Roman Abramovich's ambition to win was not hidden, and his ambition to be on top, achieve results faster, and win the biggest of titles was the reason that he was so impatient with coaches and had put so much money into the club in only a few years of arriving at Chelsea. The 2010-11 was his 8th season as owner. The club has had two of the best managers of this generation, Mourinho and Ancelotti, and the club had been one of the most dominating forces in English football since 2004, behind only Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United. The club had already won all the possible domestic titles, including 3 league titles in 7 years. But despite all this, Roman Abramovich was still not satisfied, as the club had still not won the Champions League, the trophy Abramovich desperately wanted to see coming at Stamford Bridge. But the closest they got was in 2008 final, where they lost in penalties to Manchester United, and they reached that final too under Avram Grant. But the club could not see a UCL triumph under Mourinho or Ancelotti. Jose Mourinho, who won Champions League with Porto and later with Inter, could not do it with Chelsea. And Ancelotti's Champions League record with Milan was one of the reasons he was brought in by the club. A big manager who could handle dressing room of stars, play exciting football, and can make Chelsea as good in Europe as they were in England. But Ancelotti's failure to not even reach the semi-final in 2 years was one of the key reasons for his sacking, as Roman's obsession with Champions League and impatience was going to trigger what he considered Ancelotti's disappointing run in the Champions League. Roman Abramovich came and made Chelsea a driving force, but they were still behind Manchester United. And that was not all. With Sheikh Mansour becoming the new owner of Manchester City, there was a direct threat to Chelsea. Especially when, despite spending so much, it was obvious that Roman still has some limits and can't go as far as City's new owners. Hence, he needed the club to get results faster, win more, so losing on big stages and still lagging behind Manchester United was just another reason for Abramovich to lose patience when Ancelotti's Chelsea started falling down in his second season. Another disappointment in Ancelotti's second season was that football was not entertaining anymore. What made Ancelotti's first season special was winning the league with such dominance. They were playing one of the most exciting football at that time, making the record for the highest number of goals in a season and posing a massive attacking threat for any opponent. While they started the second season in the same spirit, as the time went by, the second season was nowhere close to what Ancelotti's Chelsea was known for. It was dull and a shadow of its previous season. Chelsea were also defensively poor that season. They looked vulnerable in beating set pieces and conceded a huge amount of goals just from there. And concern was that Ancelotti did not have a sufficient justification for that, whether on the pitch or in front of the press. The attack also saw a huge drop. That attacking flair of the previous season was completely missing, and again, it was something that was constantly happening. Although it was also due to so much change in the squad, especially with departure of those players, injury of some key players, and Drogba getting diagnosed with malaria made it just worse. And not something that happened with a team or even to a big coach for the first time. And Ancelotti still finished second and reached the quarter-final of the Champions League. But maybe that was still not enough for Roman. Ancelotti mentioned this in his book as well, about how Abramovich expressed his disappointment with his playing style. Abramovich discussed how, for a team that he founded with the vision of beautiful Barcelona-like football, Jose Mourinho then turned into a dull and ugly but winning footballing side. Ancelotti in his book mentioned the owner's reaction and impatience when Chelsea lost to Wigan Athletic despite Chelsea being on a great run that time. Obviously, it was not just once. Ancelotti mentioned another instance that happened in the same season, the second half of the season, when they were doing pretty well overall. I mean, yeah, these defeats should not happen. But what can you do as an owner? Maybe understand that it can happen sometimes, at least like 2-3 times a season, and give your coach more time and control. Because then only a club can play with an identity, build longer dominance, and be favourite for every title. Look at Guardiola's City, Sir Alex United, or even teams Ancelotti succeeded. You just can't throw money and expect everything your way, and giving coach control and showing patience, which he really needs for that dominance, is not that hard. Especially when he's not finishing out of the top 4 or look like his entire system is falling apart. Man City had finished poorly in 1920 from Guardiola's standards. They once started 2020-21 season poorly. But nobody showed impatience, and they won the PL again that season and went on to do the four-peat. Ancelotti had previously managed big clubs and big players, and his football was not dull or short-term centric. Ancelotti always tried a system that suits his player most and getting the best out of that instead of forcing a new style of play. But Roman had other plans. Reading his book gives a lot more insights and his side of story on what all went wrong. You can read a part of it where Ancelotti discussed Chelsea in his book. The link is in the description below. But it might be behind the paywall. While lot of coaches were sacked under Roman Abramovich, in my personal view, this one was the harshest in all sense and made no sense. The new ownership has expressed a desire to work with a long-term vision, giving a coach time to build and show patience. So far, the reality has been completely different. After just 2 years of taking charge, the club has already appointed 4th permanent manager under the current ownership. An argument can be made it was a different situation. Chelsea did not have a sporting director, there were many changes, and a new setup for everyone including the owners. But whether the current owners will show patience with the coaches or not, they really need to understand how crucial it is. Alright, that's all from my side. Do let me know your thoughts, and if you like this video, please consider to like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.